So in order for us to ask better questions of the text, one of the things that we have to learn is how to recognize various literary genres and types within the scriptures. So each book of the Bible falls into at least one of these types of literature: narrative, poetry, and discourse. And sometimes these types can be called genres, but for the purposes of this class, I'm borrowing Ray Lubeck's terminology where he makes a distinguishment between these two types of terms, a type and a genre, though they can be interchangeable and overlap at many points. So narrative makes up about 44% of the scriptures, and a narrative makes its point primarily by telling a story. Poetry makes up about a third, about 33% of the Bible, and poetry is normal language that is modified to intensify its impact. And then the last type is discourse, which represents about a quarter, about 23% of the Bible. And discourse presents a logical sequence of ideas in order to make its point. And many books of the Bible contain more than just one type of literary design in the book. But normally, any given passage or chapter fits most closely with only one of these. For instance, you might find in a book narrative and poetry side by side. For instance, maybe you're reading the book of Exodus. It's a narrative story. It's telling the story of the freedom of this captive people of Israel. And then as soon as they walk through the Red Sea by the mighty power of God, they break out into poetic song. And then you have a poem right there in the middle of a narrative story. This is an example of how many types might be found in one work of literature. And so one of the most important factors in how well we interpret the Bible is whether or not we correctly identify which type of literature we're actually reading in any given passage. If we misunderstand the text at this level, the rest of our study will be flawed. So in order for us to read the Bible well and become better Bible students and ask better questions of the text and get closer to the original intended meaning of the author, we've got to have a sense of what kind of literature are we reading.